Here are some tips about how to do the qualitative coding task for TMA2 Part B. The instructions that you're given is that you're requested to complete the first step of a qualitative analysis by coding a section of a transcript that you're provided. There's no word limit for this particular part of the TMA, but it's expected that you'll find approximately 15 coding examples in the material. This is not hard and fast. We're not saying there are 15 and you've got to find them like a spot the difference puzzle. It's just to give you some kind of an idea of the ballpark, that if you've only found 3 things to code, you need to keep looking. And if you found 37, you've done too much. So it's giving you a ballpark idea. The transcript in this video is for the February 2024 presentation of the module, and it may be different in the details in future presentations, but I'm expecting that the overall task will be the same, so this advice will help. So for Part B, you're being asked to read the provided transcript, and there's a link to the transcript in the TMA Part B guidance. And the transcript, in this case, is taken from a real research project called Children Caring on the Move. And this particular project sought to examine how unaccompanied minors and people involved in their care made sense of and valued care relationships and caring practices. Unaccompanied minors are defined as children under the age of 18 years who migrate to a new country without kin. And the interviewee, the person being interviewed, is someone who began as a volunteer worker working with young refugees and then later became a youth worker for a charity. So you'll be able to see that the transcript provided has been annotated to include codes that are found in the data. So for example, if I scroll down here, this section has been highlighted and it's had the label applied negative immigration system. This one also has been highlighted. This one has been highlighted. For my students, this approach of selecting sections of text and adding comments is the same way that I give you feedback on your TMAs, or the tutors might give you feedback in different ways. So the coding's been completed by adding code using the comments function in Word, and the first half of the transcript has already been coded. And this is to give you an example of what it looks like. So for example, you notice that these selections are fairly long. This is a whole sentence. It's quite a long sentence. This is 2 sentences have been put together and identified as one piece of text that will be coded with this code negative immigration system. Again, here's quite a long section that's got at least a couple of sentences here that's been coded with emotional challenges. So when you do your coding, you're not trying to code just tiny little sections like little phrases with a couple of words in. You're looking for a whole idea. So it might be a complete sentence, it might be a couple of sentences together, it might be a big phrase out of a sentence, quite long samples of text. And also it gives you some ideas of how these codes are being used. And you will use that then when you code the second part of the interview. So here, from here onwards, this is the bit for you to code, all of this bit, a couple of pages. The research question that was being addressed was, how do unaccompanied minors and those involved in their care make sense of and value care relationships and caring practices? So one of the things that we're looking for in coding this is extracts of text that might help us answer that research question. So the first thing you'll need to do is to download the transcript with the initial codes, which is available in the assessment tab of the D120 website and on the guidance for Part B of TMA2. You should copy the transcript and paste it into your assignment document. It's very important for TMA2, and I think for all of the TMAs in this module, that you submit only one Word document with all of your answers in. Don't have multiple documents and then zip them together. So you copy and paste this entire transcript and paste it into the same document where you've written your Part A essay. So the first thing that you should do is to read through the whole transcript, keeping in mind the research question it addresses, and then look carefully at the codes that have already been identified in this first part up here. and have a think about how they've been used. Your task is to identify further examples of the three codes: professional boundaries, emotional challenges, and negative immigration system in the remainder of the transcript. Now, to be fair, you're not given very much information about what each code means, except for the label of the code: professional boundaries, emotional challenges, negative immigration system. So those are quite meaningful labels. Hopefully you already start to get some flavour of how they might be used. But another piece of information that you've got is the way that these codes have been applied in the first half of the transcript. So based on this information, the first time I saw this task, it seemed to me that the code professional boundaries seems to refer to the formal or informal rules and limits that govern appropriate behaviour, interactions and relationships between the youth worker, in this case the person being interviewed, and the unaccompanied minors that they work with. The code emotional challenges seems to refer to the difficulties and complexities that arise for either the unaccompanied minors or the youth worker, the interviewee, or both, in managing their emotions and psychological well-being within the context of migration, displacement and the care relationship. And the code negative immigration system seemed to me to refer to aspects of the immigration policies and procedures and practices that were perceived as detrimental or harmful to the well-being and rights of unaccompanied minors and other migrants. So that was how I understood these codes to apply. So you're looking for things that the interviewee is talking about that seem to apply to that. So you can add your codes in one of two ways. So you can do it in the same way it's been done in the first part, by using the comment function in Word. So let me show you how that would work. So for example, here in this sentence, yes, for sure, it's very emotionally demanding, very demanding of your time and energy. I spend a lot of my free time just recovering from the work. And that sounds to me like maybe they're talking about emotional challenges. So I would highlight all of this, and then I would go into review. This is where you put on comments and add a new comment. And I would type in the label that I think applies here: emotional challenges. And then you've got to either press Control and Enter or hit this little post comment button to post your comment. If you don't do that, it won't let you do anything else. So that's one way that you can add your codes. Another way that you can add your codes is to highlight a section of the text and then add your code in capital letters immediately after the highlighted section. So for example, if you wanted to code this as emotional challenges, I don't think it is. I just don't want to give you too much away. I don't think this is about emotional challenge, but let's say it was. You would highlight it by using this little yellow highlighter, or you can also do it here. Clicking this button will highlight. And then type the label in capital letters. Emotional, oops, I can't spell. Emotional challenges. And because it's in capital letters, it probably won't get confused with the text that is what the interviewer was saying. You can also use different highlighter colours for different codes. So if you think this bit is about professional boundaries, you could decide to use the colour green for the label professional boundaries. And that's something that I actually do when I'm coding interviews. Often I'll print it out and I'll do it with actual highlighters, and then I can photocopy and chop things up and use different colour codes for different codes. Either of these approaches is fine, but you should be consistent. So don't do what I've just done and do part of it in one way and part of it in another. And so that's all you do. You go through the entire rest of the interview, coding the things that you think are appropriate. It will not be the case that every single sentence gets a code applied. There'll be things that people say that aren't relevant to any of these codes. They might be relevant to some other codes that you might apply later, or they might just not be analytically interesting. Another thing that can happen is that you might have a section of text that more than one code applies to. So if you think that this is both about negative immigration system and emotional challenges, then you could either label this with a comment and put both of those comments in. Or if you were doing the highlighting method, then you would highlight it and the highlight doesn't show up because I've got a comment. So let me delete this comment. How do I delete a comment? Oh, you edit it and then delete it. Oh, suddenly I'm struggling. I can't remember how to delete a comment. Won't let me delete my comment. Okay, I'm going to give up on doing that because that's frustrating. I'm going to highlight a different section of text to illustrate how you would do this if you wanted to attach more than one label to the same piece of text. So you would highlight it and then afterwards you would type both the labels in. It might mess up your colour code if you're applying different colour codes to them. You'll have to figure out how you would want to handle that yourself. I don't think your tutor's going to kind of mark you up or down depending on how you use the colour codes, because it's only required that you should highlight them and apply labels. So this is an example. So when your tutor is marking your part B, they're going to be looking for evidence that you understand qualitative coding and how it can be applied to textual material. So for example, if I submitted this, I would give myself a very low mark because although some of these codes do seem to be relevant to the labels I've applied, other ones of them have no obvious connection to the labels I've applied. I've done it at random. So don't do it at random, do it in meaningful ways. I would also give myself marks off because I have mixed and matched highlighting and using comments. And you're not supposed to do that. And also, I've only done the first few sentences and I haven't put any codes on the rest of the interview. So that doesn't show good evidence of qualitative coding. But I think I've done quite a good job of picking quite big samples that contain entire ideas. So I'd give myself a few marks for that. If you have any questions or problems with this task, the thing to do is to get in touch with your tutor and ask for help. It's horrible to feel stuck, and it's understandable that your first thought is to try and get yourself unstuck on your own and try and figure out what you're meant to do. But if you can't figure it out fairly quickly, get in touch with your tutor and ask for help. We're here to help you. We want to help you. We want you to succeed at this. So don't struggle and don't stay stuck. Reach out for help. Good luck with this task.